On November 2nd, 2003, while conducting a routine inspection at a hotel, Chinese police suddenly discovered a man without identification and behaving in an extremely suspicious manner. When the police attempted to open the door to question him, the man immediately tried to escape, but was quickly subdued and arrested. To their surprise, after bringing him back to the station, they discovered that the man was none other than Yang Xinhai, who was wanted in connection with 20 murder cases. Yang Xinhai, born in 1968 to a poor rural family with 5 siblings in Henan Province, China, grew up in difficult circumstances. The family often struggled to have enough to eat, and as a result, all 6 of Yang's siblings appeared thin and weak. However, Yang did not become discouraged. From a young age, he was diligent in his studies, hoping to change his life through his own efforts. But due to the family's lack of money to continue supporting his education, he frequently quarreled with his father over the issue. During his time in middle school, Yang began an early romantic relationship, which caused a noticeable decline in his academic performance. Yang's father repeatedly criticized and disciplined him, even going so far as to beat him in front of the entire school. At the time, Yang was going through adolescence and had a strong sense of pride. Being beaten in front of hundreds of people made him resent his father, and he decided to run away from home. At 17 years old, Yang went to work in a coal mine in Jiaozuo. However, due to the heavy workload and his inability to adapt, after 6 months, he quit the job and moved to a construction site in Taiyuan, where he worked as a cook. While there, Yang wrote a letter to his family, informing them that he was doing fine. After several years of not hearing from him, Yang's parents were finally able to get news of their son. Yang's father then made a difficult journey to Taiyuan to persuade him to return home. However, Yang refused and decided to stay. After working for a few years in Henan, Yang chose to return to his hometown and took a job at a nearby brick factory. However, after only a month, he quit and left for another place. Working far from home always came with many challenges, and Yang, being physically weak, was often bullied and even cheated out of his wages. After being denied his pay once again, he decided to steal an aluminum basin from his employer's house. This first theft made him realize how easy stealing could be, and from that point on, he began stealing regularly, starting down the path of crime. This would lay the foundation for the more heinous acts Yang Xinhai would later commit. During one of his thefts at a train station, Yang was caught by the police after stealing a large sum of money and was sentenced to 2 years in prison. After being released, he did not reform, but continued his life of crime. Before being imprisoned, Yang had a girlfriend and asked her to wait for him. But when he was released, his girlfriend did not come to meet him. Upon learning that she had married someone else, Yang went to her house to cause trouble but was chased away. Feeling heartbroken and betrayed, Yang began frequenting brothels to indulge himself and shifted his hatred toward women. After spending all his money, Yang began to crazily break into people's homes to rob them. In some cases, when he found women home alone, he would also rape his victims. His crimes escalated to the point where he could no longer turn back. In 1996, Yang targeted a family where only the wife and elderly parents were home, while the husband was often away. One night, Yang broke into their house, encountered the wife, and decided to assault her. However, the wife, faced with the attacker, used a blunt object to defend herself and successfully knocked Yang unconscious. When Yang regained consciousness, he found himself captured and was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Due to his good behavior, his sentence was reduced, and he was released in 2000. After his release, learning from his previous mistake, Yang decided to kill his victims first to prevent any resistance. He then armed himself with an axe and a sharp knife, and thus began his horrific killing spree. Just a few months after being released from prison, Yang broke into the home of an elderly couple living alone, using an axe to kill them and steal a few hundred yuan. A month later, he broke in again, killing a 60-year-old man, then raped and killed the man's 12-year-old granddaughter. After discovering the murders, the villagers hurried to call the police. but the police could not identify the culprit as Yang's crimes were random. On August 15, 2001, Yang used the same axe to kill 3 members of the family of a widow, Thu Van Tien. He then violated the victim's body. On January 6, 2002, he committed another crime in a house in the city of Jumadian, killing the entire family and raping multiple victims. The provincial police in China later investigated and found that all the victims in these cases had large head wounds. After forensic analysis, the weapon was determined to be an axe. They concluded that the killer behind all these murders was the same person and decided to merge the cases for investigation. By March 2003, over a year since the police began their investigation, Yang Xinhai had committed 15 break-ins, robberies, murders, and rapes. Almost every month, a family would be massacred. His chosen targets were homes without men present, located in rural villages. After gathering information related to the massacre of more than a dozen families, the police identified the suspect as a man around 40 years old, about 1.6 to 1.7 meters tall, with an average build. All villages in the area where the crimes occurred became investigation targets for the police. Every household was given paper and pencils and asked to report suspicious individuals. Many people had their blood samples taken for DNA testing, but the suspect's range of activity was so vast that no results were obtained after more than a year of investigation. Meanwhile, Yang Xinhai continued his rampant crimes, expanding his territory to neighboring provinces. On August 5, 2003, Yang arrived in Hebei province, killing 3 members of Sun Shengjun's family in Handan City before fleeing. 3 days later, he reappeared in Shijiazhuang City, killing a farmer and 5 members of the farmer's family. Faced with the serious situation caused by the serial killer, the Chinese Ministry of Public Security had to mobilize a large force from various places to coordinate the investigation and capture the perpetrator. 5 towns and 56 villages within a 5-kilometer radius were thoroughly screened. Since fingerprints were collected from the crime scenes, a total of 4,816 people had their fingerprints checked. Eventually, 2 key suspects were placed under suspicion. However, both were soon ruled out. The police then began investigations in various villages to identify individuals with prior criminal records who had not returned home for years, and that's when Yang Xinhai's name began to surface. It wasn't until more than 3 months after the last murder in Hebei that, on November 2, 2003, Hebei police inspected hotels and guest houses and accidentally arrested Yang while he was hiding there. During the investigation, and through a compilation of statements, the police discovered that from September 2000 to August 2003, Yang Xinhai traveled across 4 provinces, Anhui, Henan, Shandong, and Hebei, breaking into 26 households, killing 67 people, injuring 10 others, and raping 23 victims. The oldest person he killed was 76 years old, and the youngest was 6 years old. At the first trial after being sentenced to death, Yang Xinhai declared that he would not appeal. On November 2, 2003, due to the many crimes he committed, the court sentenced Yang to death and the sentence was carried out immediately. At the execution ground, people cheered and set off fireworks to celebrate the end of the days of terror that Yang Xinhai had inflicted on them. What do you think about today's case? Please leave your comments below so we can discuss it together. Don't forget to support us with a like and subscribe to the channel to motivate our team to bring more dramatic cases. And that concludes today's case. Thank you, dear viewers, for watching. Goodbye, and see you next time.